and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this tutorial, I will be showing you how to integrate PayPal SDK and Braintree SDK in mobile application. So this is how it looks like. So this is only a simple demonstration. So when we click the pay using PayPal, this will be redirected to the PayPal Sandbox, since I will be using Sandbox in this tutorial. So let's accept and no thanks. So this is only the simple integration. So in this email or mobile number, you must input the Sandbox account that you want to use in PayPal. So I have already created. So this is my Sandbox. So SV OS 2TX 23 205. So I assume that you have already created an account. So this is only a sample amount. So since we have already an account, we must log in. Right, so we must enter the password. Okay, click login. Oops. So we have incorrect username. Okay, I forgot. This is 235. So again, input the password. Let's click login. So right now we have already logged in. So I just want to save the password so that this will be auto login. So right now we will be clicking the continue to review order. So this is our second activity. This is our payment activity class. So as you can see, payment has been successful. So let's check or verify in our account if that was reflected. So this is our latest transaction. Right, so this is how it works. So first thing that we need to do is we must include the dependencies in our build.gradle file. We must include these dependencies, and in our settings.gradle we must also add this kind of settings for Maven. So it has the credentials for Braintree and username and password. So this will pull the repositories. So once it is all set up, you must sync or update your dependencies. Alright, so that's it for the dependencies. And in our Android manifest, we have two activities. So one activity is for our main activity, and the other one is the payment activity. So in our main activity, it is only a simple activity. which it has a button. Then once you click that, this will be redirected to the next activity, which is activity payment. Next, the payment activity, it has additional settings. You must include these intent filters inside payment activities. So this will be used for Braintree. So the payment activity, this is how it looks like. That's only a progress bar. So right now it is set to visibility invisible. So let's close this. Next, in our main activity class, this is only a simple submit button. Then it has a method which will handle the submit. And our main activity XML file, let's go into the code, and inside the on click, so it invoke the handle submit, which will be in the main activity class. So this one, so this will only start an activity, the payment activity. Right, so next, so this is our payment activity. Inside our payment activity, it has this a progress bar. Then this is the amount that we will gonna use and the currency. So this is required variables by PayPal SDK and also the Braintree. So this is the Braintree client and the PayPal client and also the data collector. So we must initialize the Braintree client using our token provider. So this token provider will be responsible for handling the token. So let's get open the token provider. So it has only implementing the token provider. So this will be getting the client token using our HTTP request. So what is our HTTP request? So this will be responsible for the API endpoints. So this is our endpoints for token, and the other one is for the checkout. So later we will be building this endpoint using another server-side scripting. Alright, so this is our method, request and checkout. So this request token will be responsible for getting the token, and the checkout will be also responsible for for the payments. So that's it for the HTTP request. Then inside our token provider, this in queue will be handling or waiting for the response. So once the response will be successful, this will handle a callback on success using the or getting the token. And once it has failed, so it must call back or set the callback to on failure using the exception or the messages. So that's it for the token provider. Then our PayPal client, we must also initialize, then using the Braintree client. Then we set the listener to this payment activity. So the payment activity must also implement the payment listener, PayPal listener. So our PayPal listener has two methods, which will be on PayPal success and on PayPal failure. So if the connection to PayPal encounters an error, so this will be responsible. So the other one will be the success. Inside our success, so we need to get the nouns. So this will be generated by the PayPal, and before we can send to the server, we must get the data collector by our device. So we need to get that using this method. So once we get the device data, we will pass that to the server. So in this example, I created a random string or numbers to generate an order ID. So once the um, device data has success in getting device data, we must now send a request to the payment endpoint. So our payment endpoint, this one, has a body which will be our payment details. So it has announced the device data, the amount, and the order ID. So once it is successfully sent, we will gonna wait for the callbacks by the PayPal. So our callback has two methods. This will be the response and the on failure. So once it is encounter an error, this method will be the responsible. So we only get the message and display a alert box or dialog box, then finish the activity. And also for the successful, we get the status. Later we will gonna build the endpoint, since this will be coming from the server. So once the status is true, we will display a message that the payment has been successful, and otherwise we will gonna show payment failed and also finish the activity. Right, so that's it for the payment activity. Next, we will gonna build an API to handle the token and payment. So this one, we're gonna build this endpoint. So by the way, the Android is not actually accepting HTTP using local endpoint. So we must deploy the server in the cloud or in the internet. So for that, I will be using a serverless framework, which will be a Node.js. So let's get started on that. So actually I have already created that. So this is our server, HTTP server for the token and the checkout. So inside our token, it has you must initialize the Braintree SDK using the Braintree gateway. So inside Braintree gateway, it has parameters or variables, which will be the merchant ID, public key, and private key, and generate the token. So once it is successful, this will return a client token, and this will now be the response, and the Android mobile will get the token. So that's the process. And also for the checkout, so once the our mobile successfully connect to the or once successfully get the token, this will now be proceed this will now proceed to the payment checkout. So this endpoint will be responsible for the payment. So again, we will initialize the Braintree SDK and the merchant ID and public key and also the private key. In this checkout, we will gonna get the parameters from the HTTP. So we will gonna get the payment nouns, method nouns, device data, amount, and order ID. So after that, we will gonna create a transaction using that by the details, the amount, the order ID, the payment method nouns, the device data, and this options will be submitted for settlement. This cost to true, which will be the default, and we're gonna check if the result has a success. If the success variable is equals to false, we will gonna throw an error. Otherwise, we will gonna get the transaction receipt, and the payment receipt will be this one is an object. It contains the ID, the amount, the processor response code. So this object, this will be our response to the endpoint, and this will be the basis if the transaction is successful or not. So this is status variable. So right now we will gonna get the merchant ID, public key, and private key. So I assume that you have already created a Braintree Sandbox account. So we will gonna log in into that. So this is my Braintree account. This is actually a sandbox. So to get the private key, merchant ID, and public key, just click this gear icon and then select the API. So I have here the API keys, so you must copy these keys. So this is the public keys, and we must put that on the server. Next, our private key. So this is the private key. Next, the merchant ID, and also for the other one, which will be the client token, just save it, and we must deploy this kind of updates. So must deploy this. Let's just wait to finish the deployment. So while waiting for the deployment, we must update the amount, since I have already created a transaction before, which is 5 the amount. So right now we will get change this to something 25, so that when we check on our account in the sandbox, this will reflect the amount 25. So let me check. So right now it has only the latest transaction is only the 5 amount that was deducted to my current balance. So let's check. So it's not yet finished deployment. So right, so the deployment of our servers, it's now completely successful. So this is the endpoint for the token. So we need to replace this one, and for the payment or checkout, we need to copy also and replace this one. Oops. Right, so save. Since it is already deployed and it is already running on our server or our AWS, so we will now gonna run our application. So stop this one and rerun the application. Alright, so the application is successfully running, so we must click pay using PayPal. So this is our second activity, payment activity. So this is, it is automatically logged in since we saved the credentials. So continue to review page, and it goes back to the main activity or payment activity for the callbacks, waiting for the callbacks. So again, so the payment has been successful. So let's verify if the transaction has already reflect in our account. So right now this is the latest transaction. It was deducted 5 amount. So in our transaction it will be deducted 25. So let's verify that. Let's refresh the page. So this is, so the amount will be, it actually reflected. So if you find this video helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe.